In order to avoid discrimination, more than half of queer Americans have said that they've hid their personal relationship. So in addition to this, it's people feel a little bit obliged to hide a part of themselves. And this is not just your patients. So for folks who, in the earlier slides where you took that self-inventory, if you answered no, I haven't treated a queer patient, I just want to remind you that maybe these folks felt obliged to hide that part of themselves. And again, it's not just your patients, although that's the focus of this course, but this is also your coworkers, colleagues, students, interns, employees, et cetera. Up to a third of people in this study in 2020 have altered some aspects of their work or personal lives because they feel like they have to hide. Personally, when I was in grad school and I was on clinical rotations, I was engaged to a woman, and fiance, unless you see it written, is a gender neutral term, you know, with how it sounds. And so people would say, oh, you know, I would bring up my fiance working in the tech field, and they would say, oh, does he work at Microsoft? And then that puts me in a position, and it's not malintended, right? It's not out of aggression or dislike of queer people. It's just being steeped in assumptions we don't realize we have. So when people would do that, it put me in a position of, okay, I have a few options. I can either say, oh, she, blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes that will make the person who made the assumption, the other person, say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. And then they get really defensive and apologetic, which we're going to talk about why you shouldn't do that, because it then makes the person you've offended feel like they have to console you. And it makes the interaction more about the person who did the offensive thing, about their feelings, as opposed to the harm they inflicted on another person. So it could either, you know, in an indirect way, say she instead of he, and then correct them. Although I'll tell you, many times people still hear what they think they're supposed to hear. And I've done that. And then people still reflect, they say he back to me again. So say, oh, what does he do? And I'll say, oh, she works at Microsoft. And then they'll say, oh, has he been there for a long time? So like people sometimes still don't hear it, even when you take that brave jump to correct them. Or I could directly correct and say, oh, actually, I'm engaged to a woman. Which then again, someone might be like, oh, well, I didn't know that. I have nothing wrong with that. But it puts me in a vulnerable spot. Or I can lie by omission, and I can try not to use pronouns, which is probably what I've done the most. So if they say, oh, does he work at Microsoft? I would just say, no, Boeing, and omit a pronoun, just not say anything. Or I could feed into that lie, and I could say, no, he has his own company, and use the wrong pronoun on purpose to hide myself and camouflage. Because I'm very fortunate in the sense that my gender identity, I feel very feminine. So people often assume that I am heterosexual, and I can hide behind my appearance. Whereas someone like my partner, who is very visibly queer and gender nonconforming, she doesn't have that option, right? She is more likely to be outed even without her wanting that necessarily to happen. So it really does put people in an awkward situation. And that's just one example of the various types of emotional labor that queer people have to experience, and how that's such an easy fix, such an easy thing to correct by using gender neutral language, which we will go through